Well, I think we're gonna start this next segment. Usually we jump back and forth between our teams and do it that way, but I think I think it made sense this week to talk about the managers. Now we're gonna talk about all the players that have left our teams. We're gonna call it out with the old. Clearly, very obviously, Cody Bellinger was going to leave the Cubs, opt out of $25 million, his second year option on his Cubs deal, so he could test full free agency again after a tremendous 5 months, I'll say. Not so much the last month of the season, but he and his agent, Scott Boras, decided that would be the best course of action. Not surprising to anybody. There's still a potential the Cubs could sign him back. I'm against that simply because of his inconsistency over time, and to get him for a multi-year deal for hundreds of millions of dollars that he will require just doesn't seem like the best way to go about things. I'm really concerned about the final month of the season where pitchers figured out they could beat him simply with velocity. He couldn't hit fastballs. And that seems like a very simple way to get any hitter out if they can't hit a fastball. So
Yeah.
I'm a little
Yeah.
concerned about that. So investing more in him, I think would have been. I think Cubs got absolutely everything they could out of that deal. He got everything he could out of being a Cub. So I think it's a very understandable parting of ways. What's a little more perplexing is the option of Marcus Stroman choosing to opt out of his 3-year deal with the Cubs, the final year of his 3-year deal with the Cubs, leaving $21 million on the table. And
Don't understand.
I'm flabbergasted. If he had an entire season like he did the first half of this past season, I could maybe understand. He was on track to be a Cy Young Award winner up until July, essentially. And then things fell apart. He got hurt. He had a hip injury that led eventually he had a rib cartilage injury that nobody fully understands. He did come back eventually, but it wasn't nearly what he was prior to that in the first half of the season. So he's looking. I'm guessing that his thought process is he's got to be a free agent now. He's in his mid 30s. He's probably looking for a 3-year deal, and he can find a way to make more than $21 million over the next 3 years. I don't know what would happen to him next year. I don't think it would be any better than what we saw this past season. So I think he was going to be losing money eventually. He might have a really hard time after next season getting a free agent deal. So I
Yeah.
guess there's some logic there. And I think he will get, I would say he's worth, 12 million, not 21 million,
Yeah.
12, maybe 36 million over 3 years is the deal he's probably going to be looking at or hoping for. And that'd be better than 1 year of 21 million and then, scraps after that. So that's the only way I can figure out the logic. Turning down an automatic $21 million. But I don't know. I think, what do you think?
I think he's a head case. I've said that more
That's
than once. I
We've
think he
seen it.
feels. I think part of his decision making is he feels slighted by the Cubs because he went over and over again on how like he wanted to get a deal done. I'm
Yep.
here. I'm ready to make this deal. Let's
Yeah,
do
he
this
was
deal.
negotiating his deal in the public in the press all
Yeah.
season long, essentially.
Yeah.
So, which is his prerogative. It's just a bit unusual, but yeah, he got his opinions out there, and he tried to create leverage in many ways. So,
And I mean, I think the fact I was shocked because to your point, he's going to get the inverse of the 21. He's going to reverse it. He's going to maybe get 12. People are going to look at his attempts to negotiate in the press too. That's going to be like a negative against him. And I don't understand the dude. He's a very vocal dude, which is cool. Like whatever.
I like that.
Yeah, you can have your opinion, and that's fine.
I like him a lot. I love that he talks. That he's an open book. He will tell you exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah,
I think he's a really smart I think I don't really want him on my team though, because there seems to be weird shit that follows him everywhere. There's issues with every franchise he's been at.
Yeah,
So
you can look it up.
minor issues, nothing terrible, but there's always something. I feel like he kind of creates his own drama, which
Well, and I feel like in most cases, he ends up getting his feelings hurt by the organization at some point. He feels slighted by the organization,
I think
and
that's how I think he feels slight. I think that actually leads. I think that's his MO. He wants to feel slighted.
yeah,
That's how he performs at his best. But
I guess.
it burns bridges and it doesn't work. I mean, it's worked for him for this far in his career, so I guess he's going to continue to do that. But I just think he's also potentially looking at it's a thin free agency market, which we'll talk about in a bit. But
Well, not with pitching though. There's a lot of
well,
decent pitching. It's position players where it's thin.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think he's hoping he's at the top end of that pitching market.
He's not.
I think he's overestimated that. I think he's in the
Yeah.
middle at best. At his age and with the nah, it's hard to call them issues. I don't know what to call it. There's just always something going on with him. It seems a little bit a tad askew, as you
Yeah.
might say. So yeah, we're on the
Um,
same page with that. That's all I've got for the Cubs exodus. Should we switch over to the south side of town unless you had more?
no,
Stroman?
I mean you don't regret. I think we covered this, so if I'm repeating myself, but do you and it's easy, even easier now because the Cubs didn't make the playoffs, but like don't you think you could have gotten a decent haul for Bellinger at the trade deadline?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was the one pushing for that
Yeah,
on
you
this
were, and
podcast.
you brought it up the last episode. At the time, I said no, and I still think no because they had to make that push for the playoffs.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. I couldn't
That's the only
remember. So
reason it
yeah.
was and it
And
not
of
trading
course you're
him.
allowed to change your mind. You could be like, yeah, shit, I guess we should have, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But
I'm
yeah.
sticking with it though. It made July, August, and September interesting baseball. They didn't trade away their assets. They were in it until the last day of the season. Essentially, they shit the bed in the last week. And they, in a different universe, one or two things go differently, and they are the Arizona Diamondbacks in the World Series. So I don't think
If
that's necessarily
Sale doesn't forget how to catch a ball,
well.
maybe
It might be. There's
it might be in the playoffs.
few a few moments of the revolving or the sliding doors of history, which could have changed. Maybe
Yeah.
the Cubs would have been there. I don't. Their bullpen wasn't strong enough to sustain them through the playoffs is the main issue. But
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, so no, I don't regret it. They had to hold on to it. It would have been nice to have a couple prospects that they would have gotten for Bellinger. But I don't think it's imperative that the Cubs added to their bull into their farm system because it's a pretty robust system that will it's not hurting for at least depth of prospects. Maybe not the highest end of prospects, but they've got a lot of depth, and that's what we'll get into that in the next segment. But I think they'll be able to trade from that depth and maybe get some big names. But
Word Hole Media.